In September, MGM UA Home Video is going to bring you the amazing, thought-provoking new title, Brain Dead, kind of a romantic comedy. And we also have a whole bunch of horror flicks. We've got movies that'll scare your dog, and we've even got Christmas movies, if you can believe that. Hi, I'm Joe Bob Briggs, the drive-in movie critic of Grapevine, Texas, and the people at MGM asked me to introduce this month's video releases to you because many of them deal with the human brain. I personally have a brain myself, and Brain Dead is the main movie I'll be talking about. We're pushing that sucker. We're trying to sell, 70, 80 million of those, but we've got a total of 19 classic horror films all being released during the month of September. Now, like I say, I'm here first of all to explain what a brain is, for those of you unfamiliar with this part of the body. Because even though many of these movies are very popular, we have damaged brains, exploding brains, brain sucking. We have Nancy Reagan's brain in that movie Donovan's Brain. That's scary. We here at MGM realize that many people are not fortunate enough to have a brain, hence the famous MGM song, If I Only Had a Brain. But we should always remember this when we take our own brains for granted and when we blow up squirrels with a shotgun. Now, we don't have much time for this. We've got lots of incredibly disgusting horror film footage to show you, so pay attention. Here, as you can see, I hold in my hand a human brain, also known as the noodle, the noggin, the gray matter, the stuff between your ears, and in the case of automobile accidents, that stuff lying on the pavement. It's composed of 5 parts. The first part is the medulla oblongata, right in here. This is what regulates your breathing, your heartbeat, and your ability to pronounce the words medulla oblongata. Now you will need your medulla oblongata in order to watch Brain Dead. It's this flick that they made from an old Charles Beaumont script. Remember the guy who wrote all the Twilight Zone episodes? And it's the story of what would happen if a man decided to keep a whole laboratory full of pickled brains that used to belong to paranoid schizophrenics so that he can figure out how to stick incredibly long needles into the brains and turn these loony bin people into perfectly respectable Wall Street bankers. Sorry, that's a bad example. So that he can turn these loony bin people into perfectly respectable game show hosts. Unfortunately, Dr. Martin becomes too attached to his brains. He's tired of trying to carry on relationships with people in jars all the time. You know, it'd be easier to get an aquarium. And so he starts doing experiments on this guy at the insane asylum named Halsey, who's convinced he's being pursued by a guy named Conklin, who owns the Conklin Mattress Company, and brutally murdered Halsey's wife and kids. Only Conklin is now Halsey's doctor in the hospital. And then Dr. Martin rigs up this giant open brain surgery erector set where he screws some scaffolding all up and down the side of Halsey's head, and he starts, are you following this? Are you following me? He starts slicing open Halsey's head and poking into his memory so that all these corporate weirdbeards can watch. And then later, after they don't find diddly squat inside Halsey's head, Dr. Martin is leaving the building carrying a brain under his arm like this. And this homeless street person sees him and starts screaming, "That's my brain! You stole my brain!" And they get into a scuffle and the brain goes flying through the air and it splatters all over the pavement. And Dr. Martin is trying to reach for it, and so he gets plastered by a car. And before you know it, the doctor is in surgery and they're opening up his brain, and he thinks he is being pursued by Conklin, and sometimes he thinks he's Halsey, except for the times when Halsey is chasing him, or he and Halsey are both being chased by Conklin, or else they're swimming around together in Halsey's brain. I don't really remember what happens in this movie, but in other words, Twilight Zone kind of deal, you know, to the point where you don't know what's going on. Great movie though. 1 naked breast, 5 dead bodies, splattered brains, disembodied face, ice pick stabbing, excellent lobotomy footage, Bud Cort's in it.
You're crazy. Residents of glass structures ought not hurl projectiles.
Bill Pullman. Bill's the chief brain doctor.
Are you all right, Dr. Martin?
Nothing that a little brain surgery couldn't cure.
Bill Paxton is the marketing genius who comes up with the idea of plastic brain surgery.
I've got it. Attitude adjustment centers. How does that grab you?
George Kennedy's in it.
Awful. It's not user-friendly.
Great movie, 4-star movie. I highly recommend it. You know, you're going to need to buy 30 or 40 of these. Brain Dead, that is one great movie. Plus, we've got 19 other great horror films. And speaking of Brain Dead, and speaking of brain-damaged individuals, I can't believe I forgot what I was talking about. Oh yeah, I was telling you about the brain. Here, the second part of your brain is the cerebellum, and you can always spot it right away. It's the part that looks like a piece of beef jerky that's been thrown up by a sheepdog, and this is what regulates your ability to enjoy Playboy magazine, your ability to make change at McDonald's, and in most cases, the ability to eat your great aunt's holiday muffins without contorting the facial muscles. You'll need this part to watch the fearless vampire killers. This was the horror comedy Roman Polanski made with Sharon Tate right before, well, we won't go into that. We do have standards here at MGM, which is why we are presenting the original uncut version, the long, long mother of a version. It goes on forever. There's extra footage in this baby that was not in the version that was released in America. If you saw it in Poland, no problem. But I'm getting off the subject here. You will also need your cerebellum to watch Night of Dark Shadows with Kate Jackson and House of Dark Shadows with the original Barnabas Collins, Jonathan Frid, everybody's favorite vampire from the 60s. It's your cerebellum that will be saying to you, hey, wait a minute, wasn't that a hokey soap opera from the 60s? And that's correct, but see, these aren't the TV episodes. These are hokey feature films based on the hokey TV show. Here's a part of the brain that you might have heard of, the pons. This is what gives you the ability to tell the difference between 16th century Italian operas and a dump truck running over a tricycle. And of course, if you can do that, then you can tell the difference between Poltergeist, the one that was made by Tobe Hooper, the same guy that made the Texas Chainsaw Massacre, even though everybody thought it was made by Steven Spielberg, and Poltergeist 2,
They're back.
the one where the Indian sets up his tent in their backyard and fights off the black preacher man, and Poltergeist 3, the one where the demon spirits get sick of the California suburbs and so they take over a high-rise condo building in Chicago. I couldn't stand number 3, to tell you the truth. If you're going to make a sequel, make a gall-darn sequel. Instead of Craig T. Nelson and Jo Beth Williams, they had Tom Skerritt and Nancy Allen as the aunt and uncle. And of course, they all star the late child actress Heather O'Rourke. What else we got here? The cerebrum. This is one of the most mysterious parts of the brain. Its only known function is that it gives man the ability to do the pony without falling over. And that's why this month we have a series of classic horror movies that you can watch without actually using any part of your brain. Todd Browning's Freaks, which came out in 1932 and was banned in Europe for over 30 years. It was considered a masterpiece, but since it used real dwarfs and midgets and Siamese twins and bearded women and other sideshow characters, MGM got embarrassed about it and disowned the film. Now MGM is claiming the film again because, see, MGM also has a brain. And speaking of brains, we've also got Donovan's Brain, that 1953 Nancy Reagan classic where Nancy has to fight this giant brain that's going to take over the world. And do you know why? Drugs! They drugged this brain. Nancy is hacked, but no brain is too big for Nancy.
You forgot, my dear, that you and Frank are ordinary people with limited mental capacities.
Besides Donovan's Brain, we have The Devil Doll, a 1936 Todd Browning classic. Great movie. The Devil Doll stars Lionel Barrymore, Maureen O'Sullivan, and Frank Lawton. And Lionel is this escaped convict who uses a serum to shrink people and then disguise them as dolls in a toy store and then send out these little midget assassins to take revenge on the guys who framed him. And then we've got another, even more famous Todd Browning flick, Mark of the Vampire. You know, Todd is the father of American horror movies, and we have 3 of his greatest movies this month. In Mark of the Vampire, Lionel Barrymore stars again with Bela Lugosi in one of his classic vampire roles. And that's not all, though. We've also got a couple of classic Fay Wray horror flicks. You know, after King Kong, they were always trying to find a way to make Fay scream louder on screen. We've got Dr. X, the ultimate mad scientist film with Lee Tracy and Lionel Atwill, also a forgotten classic. And we've got Fay Wray in The Mystery of the Wax Museum about this mad wax sculptor played by Lionel Atwill again. Both of these movies, by the way, are directed by Michael Curtiz, who also directed Casablanca.
You fiend!
He is here!
And finally, in order to enjoy MGM's video horror flicks from the 60s, 70s, and 80s, you will need to use yet one more part of the brain, the midbrain. Now, the midbrain is like a clover leaf on the brain interstate. It connects the pons and the cerebellum with the cerebrum. And in recent years, as a matter of fact, many people of the so-called yuppie generation have chosen to do without the midbrain, or actually had it surgically removed through a process of elective lobotomy perfected by this Sausalito, California surgeon named Lance Withers. Dr. Withers is known as the lobotomist to the stars and has performed this partial brain removal for many famous celebrities. But the first Hollywood star to appear on screen acting like he was crazy all the time was, of course, Vincent Price, who stars in this month's release, Twice Told Tales. It's a bunch of scary Nathaniel Hawthorne stories all hooked together. Vincent was the guy who brought the ghost story back in the early 60s. He made 7 or 8 horror flicks a year. Most of them were Edgar Allan Poe movies, but the best ghost story of that period was a film called The Haunting, starring Julie Harris, one of the few horror movies that people will go to again and again and again. Then, skip forward to 1976, and we have got the horror flick that defined the 70s, Carrie, the movie about the shy teenager who gets a little ticked off on prom night. This movie launched a whole bunch of careers. Brian De Palma directed it from Stephen King's novel. Sissy Spacek starred as the teenage girl. It was John Travolta's first movie, and high school was never the same after this movie. And then jump into the 80s, where we're releasing Motel Hell, the cult classic about Rory Calhoun's Cannibal Sausage Cafe.
It takes all kinds of critters
to make Farmer Vincent fritters.
And Horror Show, the Sean Cunningham movie about the guy they sent to the electric chair, but the voltage didn't kill him, it just killed his brain. We got Pumpkinhead, where a guy in a small town summons up a giant orange demon to waste some bikers. This one is real popular. It's another one with a cult following.
I think it's here now.
And last but not least, we've got the 1988 Drive-In Academy Award winner for Best Picture, Child's Play, the story of Chucky the Killer Doll, whose idea of a good time is to hit babysitters over the head with a ball-peen hammer and push them out of 6th floor windows. And that concludes MGM UA's tour of the human brain. To sum up what we've been talking about, I would just say that I can't really remember what we've been talking about, but if you've got a brain, then I know you'll buy lots of these suckers because they're priced at just $19.98 each. And I think that's it. Is that it? Oh, there was one more thing. Ho, ho, ho.
Also in September, the Christmas rush is on as MGM UA Home Video offers the finest selection of holiday movies. And you'll want to get a jump on the gift-giving season because the industry's top marketing analyst reports that last year, fourth quarter holiday sales jumped 21% over the prior year. Plus, they predict this year's Christmas selling season revenues will exceed $1 billion. Leading our solid lineup of Christmas classics are 3 long-awaited new releases. The Canterville Ghost, A tale of supernatural fun starring Charles Lawton, Robert Young, and Margaret O'Brien.
Thumbs up, Uncle. It's in the bag.
Greer Garson and Walter Pidgeon star in a story filled with tears and triumph. Blossoms in the Dust.
You're never going to find another soul in all this world who'll be as close to you as your own son.
And The Next Voice You Hear, a heartwarming tale of love and faith starring James Whitmore and Nancy Reagan.
Kind of a funny thing on the radio just now. They announced it was exactly 8:30, and then a voice said, "This is God. I'll be with you for the next few days."
Also available this Christmas, it's the all-time classic Gone with the Wind, priced at $89.98. This cinematic masterpiece comes home to be enjoyed over and over again.
Kiss me. Kiss me once.
Filmdom's funniest feline in a special tale of holiday spirit. The Pink Panthers' A Pink Christmas. Charles Dickens' perennial favorite, A Christmas Carol, featuring the man everyone loves to hate, Scrooge. Available in the original black and white version, as well as colorized.
Humbug.
Little Women, June Allison, Elizabeth Taylor, Janet Leigh, and Margaret O'Brien are the legendary March sisters in this film adaptation of Louisa May Alcott's beloved novel.
You're on fire.
Fire! Oh.
Betty Davis, Glenn Ford, and Anne Margaret star in a tale to lift your spirits, Frank Capra's Pocket Full of Miracles. Christmas in Connecticut, the delightful comedy starring Barbara Stanwyck, captures the joy and magic of the holidays. A Christmas Story, the whimsical, slightly offbeat tribute to the traditional all-American Christmas.
There it is. The holy grail of Christmas gifts, the Red Ryder 200-shot range model air rifle.
Ralphie, what would you like for Christmas?
I want an official Red Ryder Carbine Action 200-shot range model air rifle.
Ooh.
No. Shoot your eye out.
Dr. Seuss's unforgettable animated tale of a mean-spirited Grinch's attempt to spoil Christmas. How the Grinch Stole Christmas. MGM's wonderful collection of animated classics featuring Alias Saint Nick and Peace on Earth. MGM Cartoon Christmas. Ballet superstar Baryshnikov performs the classical fairy tale that has become a holiday ritual for millions. The Nutcracker. Jimmy Stewart and Margaret Sullivan star in the classic romantic comedy, The Shop Around the Corner. We'll be promoting The Gift of Video with over $2 million worth of national and spot television advertising. MGM UA Home Video's Christmas promotion will ring in the new year with record profits. Prepare for Christmas in September with classic film favorites priced from $14.98 each, suggested retail price. Gifts that'll last the whole year through from MGM UA Home Video. Pre-order date September 6th. Street date September 26th.